Hello and welcome to this video. Today I'm talking about integrating learning. And what I mean by that is integrating spiritual learning. So are you integrating your learning? Are you learning? And are you taking the time to really notice how much you have integrated already and how far you have come? And I'm talking about this today because I know and I see out there in the world that there are a lot of people who go through a lot of experiences. In many cases, it's experiences that are repeated over and over and over in their lives, but they're not integrating the learning from those experiences. And so therefore they get trapped on this karmic loop of repeating that cycle over and over in different ways and through different scenarios or through different people. And so spiritual learning integration really comes down to you understanding on a soul level when something is for you, when something is not for you, you recognizing and understanding how to go about making your choices in your day-to-day life, because that comes from integrated learning, right? I want to use just a super simple example. When, let's say you're going out and you're looking for a car, you want to buy a new car. And you're looking online, you're looking at dealerships, you go and look at some private sellers, vehicles and whatnot, and you're not really, finding what you're looking for, whatever. But then you go to a dealership and then you do end up finding something. And let's say that vehicle that you find at the dealership, just, you take it out for test drive, everything else, you love it, and you decide, yeah, I'm gonna get this car. It's great, I love it, it's fantastic, it's got everything I need, all the bells and whistles, whatever. And when you go to apply for the vehicle, to go purchase it, it doesn't go through. Or there's a glitch, or there's just a lot of glitches, a lot of things that are happening kind of over and over that are not making it a smooth sale. Okay, let's just put it that way. So the purchasing itself is becoming complicated, it's becoming difficult, and it's coming with a lot of different problems. Well, that's something, for example, that would be a sign or a signal that that is perhaps not for you. And most people in the normal world would completely ignore that, and they would just chalk it up to being, well, it was going through with a couple of hitches, but at the same time I still want it, and I ended up getting the car. And then, okay, you get the car, you take it home because it does end up going through, whatnot. And then once you start driving the vehicle, you start noticing there's problems. This comes on, that comes on, whatever, and just different complications with it. Well, that's like sort of your second sign now from the universe to indicate to you that, hey, you didn't really make the best choice here for yourself. We were trying to give you signals and signs, and we were trying to help you learn what is for you and what's not for you through your intuition and through different signs and through difficulty, but you just weren't noticing that. So it's a process of understanding that we have to go through, because when something like this happens, it's happening because it's trying to get your attention. It's trying to help you realize whether that something is for you or is not for you. In most cases, I find that the things that are for us are a lot easier. They just seem to flow. It just happens like so naturally, and it comes into your life naturally and without struggle necessarily. And that's not always the case, because some things are definitely hard won for sure in life, but not everything. And in most cases, I find that the universe wants us to flow with it, right? So it's always trying to give us signs and signals to help us learn, to help us grow along the journey, to help notice what is for us and not for us. Now, that being said, most people still tend to ignore those signs. They don't pay attention to them. They completely bypass, ignore. Why? Because they're not integrating the learning. Now, through integration of learning, and what I mean by that is, like, do you ever take the time just to pause? When something happens in your life that is either difficult, like a difficult situation that you just went through, like a breakup, for example. I'll use relationships because that's a common issue that people just don't integrate learning from and don't want to acknowledge what was meant to be learned from a certain connection. And this is something that I myself had to go through repeatedly over and over and over until I integrated my own learning as well. And that's why I'm making this video today, to help you navigate this integration in an easier way, if I can kind of shed a little bit of light on how to do it and what signs to look for, then perhaps you'll be able to integrate your learning a lot quicker and a lot easier, and you'll just have to repeat lessons less. And you won't have to continually go through this process of like things repeating over and over in your life that you don't like. Because let's face it, the things that we have to learn in life are usually things that are not that comfortable. They're not easy things, right? When learning about relationships and how to navigate relationships, that's not easy to learn. You have to go through a lot of trial and error. You have to go through a lot of disappointment. You have to go through a lot of bullshit before you get to that other side of like, oh my God, I finally get it. And that takes time, and that's okay. But if you can at least notice the markers along the way, the little red flags, right? Or the little signs from universe that have been trying to guide you and actually get you to the other side of that learning faster. If you would pay attention to those, or if you would have paid attention to those, then you would have had a lot easier time, and it wouldn't have taken so long. Like, it wouldn't have had to go through such a long, tedious process. And again, I know because this is something I had to go through in my own life when it came to relationships. It was just, repeatedly happening of attracting the same kind of person over and over, because I wasn't understanding and integrating the learning from each time that my heart was broken, or each time that I was disappointed. And I didn't get it. Like, I just couldn't see the connection. And eventually I did see the connection, because it was just so blatantly obvious when literally the same kind of scenario in relationships kept repeating with different people. And I thought to myself, wow, this is like not possible. Like, how could I keep attracting the same kind of person? But it was my lack of integration that was attracting the same kind of person. And then once I understood that it was my own self-worth and my own value that I needed to boost like big time, and recognize what I'm actually worth, and what my values are, and who I would actually allow into my life. Once I learned that, and once I finally integrated the knowledge, and once I finally integrated the knowing that I no longer want to keep attracting that same scenario with different faces, once I did that, it stopped showing up. And it started to shift into a brand new, beautiful direction that showed me that, oh, okay, Kata, here you go. You can manifest this now, because now you've integrated the learning. So anything in your life right now that is a struggle, anything that you're not getting just the results that you're looking for, and I'm not necessarily talking about work, because like I said, certain things with work and with a certain mission that you have or goal that you have that you'd like to accomplish, with those things, yeah, it will be a struggle, and you'll have to just keep putting in the work. But see, even there, be careful to observe and watch for the signs of what kind of work I should be putting in. Because we oftentimes, and this is a mistake I've made multiple times, we oftentimes think that the harder I work at something, the better I'll get. Yes, to a certain degree, but then no, because a lot of times there's always a quicker and easier, a better way of doing that something that you're trying to do. And you have perhaps a belief that I have to work my ass off and I have to put in X amount of hours a week in order to accomplish that goal. Well, not necessarily. So even with tasks, even with different things, try to, when it's a struggle, when you keep hitting your head up against a wall with something, then stop for a moment and pause and take a time out and go within yourself and meditate and ask the universe and ask, your guides to help you connect with the people that can help you do it in a smarter, faster, more efficient way. Because you don't have to struggle, and things don't have to necessarily be hard won. This is something I'm also learning, because I grew up in the mentality that the harder you work, the better, and the more money you're going to make, and blah, blah, blah. And I think a lot of us grew up with that mentality, but this mentality is false. It's really not true, because I find that I can actually create something in my life a heck of a lot faster and with much more efficiency if I'm actually going within myself first and tuning into what I'm truly desiring, if I'm tuning into what my soul needs, first of all, and when I'm tuning into how I can be of service to others, I'm shown this completely different way of doing it. And it's so easy, and it's so light, and it's so it just like flows, it comes in a very different form. But that's because I'm taking the time to slow down and to pause and to go within. Without that, you're going to rush through experiences and you're not going to be able to integrate learning. You're going to rush through relationships and you're going to keep missing the point, and you're going to keep attracting the same person. You're going to break up with that person, then you're going to go on to the next one, without taking the break and the pause. And then you're already going to be back to repeating the same cycle. So if you want to save yourself some time, and if you don't want to spend your entire lifetime, okay, because let's face it, life is short. And we could literally spend years and decades stuck in patterns and stuck in ways of thinking and stuck in beliefs that just don't serve us. All because we're lacking integration of knowledge. Because you're not willing to see what the universe is trying to present to you through hardship. You're not willing to see what you have to learn, how you have to grow, and what you're supposed to overcome within yourself. Everyone is so comfortable and so quick to point the finger at other people for things going wrong in their life. And they're not willing to take the time to actually stop and pause and say, how did I contribute to the situation? And what can I do now? What can I change within myself to make this better, or to not repeat this again? It's not always about the other person, and it's not about blaming other people. As a matter of fact, blaming, I always say, is victim mode. So you have to decide and you have to choose. Are you going to be willing to start really, truly learning and taking the time to actually look at your problems from a new perspective and ask yourself, what role did I play in creating this? How was I thinking about it? How was I feeling about it? What was my attitude towards it? What was my perspective about it? All of these things matter big time, because they all influence our outcome in every situation. How we perceive, how we believe, how we look at something, that all influences your actions, your thoughts about it, and what you're going to do. And as a result, it creates momentum. And that momentum can go in a negative or a positive direction. That's really up to us, based on our beliefs. Right? So we often, if I look at children, for example, and when it comes to teaching children, or just how kids learn, right? Then you will see that a toddler, for example, whose little mind is still quite untouched, and they're still very pure, and they're still very free within themselves. They have no shame, they have no feelings of guilt, they have nothing. They're just so clear, emotionally, and they're so pure emotionally, and they're so blissful. Why is that? Because there's no conditions in the mind. There's no limitations in the mind. It's just pure source, exactly the way that they were meant to come in. And we lose that, and we lose that very quickly. Between the ages of 3 and 5 is where most kids become completely transformed, or if not completely, but a good part of them becomes transformed and conditioned to human life the way it is right now. Which, if we look at human life the way it is right now, it's very, very unhealthy. There's a lot of things that are not working in our world. It's obvious and it's evident. And yet we keep taking or bringing the new generations in and then getting them to conform to this system, to the way that we think, the way that we believe, the way that we perceive. We're making them like extensions of ourselves, instead of allowing them to be free, instead of allowing them to show us how to be completely unencumbered and just flowing with life. Because little toddlers flow with life. They'll walk through the puddle with excitement. Have you ever seen a child that was not excited about going into a puddle after a rainy day and a summer day? They love it. For them, they're not thinking dirt. They're not thinking anything negative. There's no connection to anything negative. They're just thinking, oh my goodness, how fun. And another prime example of this would be like if you look at an elementary school, for example. Look at the JKs, okay? JKs, this is like, we're talking 4 or 5-year-olds, right? They go into school, they start school, and they begin, you ask a JK class to, if they want to sing a song. What do they all say? Yay, yes, let's sing a song. They get so excited, right? And let's fast forward a few years, and let's take grade 8 elementary. By the time we get to grade 8 elementary, and then you walk into that class and you ask that grade 8 class, hey guys, do you want to sing a song? What are you going to get? No, that's what we're going to get. Why is that? Because we've killed that spark within the child. We have made them become us. We have made them become what currently exists instead of allowing them to show us the way of being in a free, completely natural state of being. So you see, this starts very, very early in life. And by the time you're watching this video, you are so used to that way of life, and you're so integrated into this society and all of the beliefs and the perceptions and everything else and thoughts and stuff that this society comes with. You are so ingrained in that you've lost yourself. You don't even know who you are. And I know, because I felt lost for the longest time. It's like I couldn't sift through the shit to find myself, because all I kept hearing in my mind were all these thoughts of other people and all these beliefs that were not even mine, and all of the things that I could and couldn't do based on what? Other people's thoughts and other people's beliefs. None of them belonged to me, but I adapted them, I took them on, and I made them mine, because it was the only way that I could feel safe to navigate in this world. It was the only way that I could feel accepted within society. Because God forbid that you are yourself. You are shunned, you are looked upon differently. It's not okay in this world to be yourself, in case we haven't noticed. And that's something very important that we have lost. And our children are losing that if we don't take responsibility to help them not make those same mistakes. Like, if we want them to be able to integrate learning, then guess what? We need to allow them to be more free. We need to allow them to have choice. We need to allow them to see how to integrate learning. But that starts with you, especially if you're a parent. That starts with you. You have to first learn how to integrate knowledge. You have to first start paying attention to the different signs and start trusting your inner feelings and that inner guidance that you get about anything. Whether it's a decision that you need to make on the spot, or whether it's something that you need to take your time and figure out, it doesn't matter. We should be trusting our intuition and using our intuition, not just the mind, to make these choices. And the first thing we should really be using is our hearts to make those choices, And most people are not able to do that. They're so disconnected from their own heart and from their own intuition that they couldn't even possibly feel into what they're supposed to be feeling into. So then therefore, how the heck are they going to integrate their knowledge? How are they going to integrate learning? How are they going to understand how they're supposed to grow and what Spirit wants them to see and the direction Spirit is trying to push you into? How are we going to see that if we're so disconnected? We're not going to. So it's time for people to wake up to their own inner selves, and that only will come from meditation, and that will only come from going within yourself and taking time and to figure yourself out. You are not going to be able to integrate learning about relationships, or what you're screwing up in relationships, or why other people are screwing you over in relationships. You're not going to be able to figure that out until you look within yourself. Stop looking at the other person for the answers. Stop looking to blame the other person. Because all you're doing is you think you're getting yourself off the hook. Oh, that was their fault. They were the jerk. I played no role in that. So you think. No, It's not true. And I know it's not true because I went through this. And I had to realize through hardship, through experiencing a lot of, things I didn't want to experience. And I had to keep repeating them over and over until I got it, until I finally stopped pointing the finger and I started to look within myself. And I started to ask myself, where in this am I accountable? And what role did I play? And how did I allow this to, come into my life again? And how did I not recognize it when it showed up again? Or maybe I did recognize it. Why did I ignore it? That's an even better question. If you do recognize and if you do see certain signs, but you're ignoring them, then you need to ask yourself why. Do you not feel worthy of love? Do you not feel worthy of a good relationship? Do you not feel worthy of good friends? Do you allow yourself to stay connected to people that you know are not authentic, that don't have your back, but you feel this need to keep staying in the connection? Why? Are you not allowed to be happy? These are questions that I ask myself. And only when I started to ask these questions did I actually start to integrate the learning. So look at the scenarios in your life right now. Look at the relationships in your life right now and ask yourself, which one or what role did I play in each of them? And what do I need to really consider and think about when it comes to these situations in my life? How can I change them? How can I really learn the essence and the truth of what this truly means and why it showed up in my life? What can I learn from it? And when something doesn't work out for me, why isn't it working out for me? What thoughts, what beliefs, what perceptions do I have about that something? Because until we ask ourselves these questions, we're just not learning. We are just not learning. Because you're going to keep putting along in life thinking that, everything is fine. Yep. Ostrich. Stick my head in the sand and ignore. And then just repeat. And then wonder why it doesn't work out. So take some time to evaluate your situations. Take some time to sit with yourself. And if I were you, what I did was I looked at everything separately. So I looked at like relationships in a separate way. I just kind of took my time with each thing and spent some time asking myself some super deep questions. And only then was I able to really understand what role I played and how I needed to show up differently. First of all, for myself, and then second of all, to everyone else. And once I got that, oh man, it was really rewarding. It just helped me to see and to understand that I have power and I can control my life and I can control the outcome of situations. But I must be willing to learn. I must be willing to acknowledge that I'm not perfect and that's okay. And that I have learning to do when it comes to certain things in life. We're all going to be really great at some things in life and then not so great at others. And that's normal. That's all of us. So just evaluate the parts of your life that that you're not so great at. And the ones that are kind of really deficient and not working well for you at this time. And then take a look within yourself and ask yourself what beliefs you have around it that you really need to shift out of now and release. And ask yourself, are those even my beliefs? Or are those beliefs that I learned from family, friends, people around me in my environment? Do I give my power away to people in my environment by listening to what they have to say instead of listening to myself? These are all things I think when we look at, you're going to get answers and you're going to get clarity and you're going to get understanding and you're going to be able to integrate knowledge, spiritual learning. So I will leave you with that today. I hope this was helpful. Leave a comment below. Let me know if there's anything specific that you're going through and struggling with right now that you can't seem to get your head around. Also, let me know in the comments if there's anything specific that you guys want me to cover in terms of topics, different things to talk about, anything and everything to do with spirituality, nature, evolving, growing, learning, loving are all the things that I really talk about on this channel here. So, but I want your feedback. I want to hear what you guys need so that I can show up for you in that kind of way. So thanks so much for watching, and take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one.